Ladies and gentlemen, supporters and members of the National Party, I welcome you here to the second Ordesh of the National Party. And before I begin, I have to say that I am made a little nervous by Mr. Reynolds' commentary on whether or not the Irish Times would carry my obituary. I would say only this much. Don't go putting dirt in my grave just yet. I am, however, very honoured and proud to know that there are hands in which to place this movement and this idea and this ideal. If Mr. Reynolds or myself or indeed anybody else as an individual were to pass over or be passed over to the other side. The left have only made one attempt on my life thus far that I am aware of, but I imagine more will come. We are here by the lake of Lough Erne, idyllic surroundings if you are of an aesthetic frame of mind. I'm not much of an artist, and I don't have much interest in architecture either, so go figure. I crossed over the border this morning without incident, without incident except for a text message from Vodafone. And it's not altogether certain that that's going to be all the incident that will happen in crossing that border in the months to come. So we have come to hold the second Ordesh of the National Party in Fermanagh, not only because of the beautiful idyllic surroundings in which we find ourselves, but as a restatement of our commitment that the nation of Ireland contains 32 counties. And not just 6 or 26. We are here on the propitious day of the birth date of Páirtí Pearse, the only president of the Irish Republic. Now, I'm not unaware of the existence of the state. I'm not a madman, despite what people say. I'm not unaware of the apparatus of the state, south and north. I'm just saying, as regards Michael D. Higgins, hashtag not my president. And of the 26 county state, hashtag not my republic. I didn't myself pick the venue of this hotel to hold the second Ordesh, but unlike Fianna Fáil, the so-called Republican Party, I can assure you that no one will be expelled, demoted, or in any way reprimanded for having decided to move the National Party's main event of the year to the northern part of our country. Under the circumstances we find ourselves in the very close run-up to November, when the end of November, when Leo Varadkar told us that the Brexit deal would already be announced, he is now saying that he is pretty sure there will be a Brexit deal by the end of December. I'm waiting for his announcement of the Brexit deal at the end of January, and then the Brexit deal at the end of February, and the Brexit deal at the end of March, although that's actually the end of any discussion on Brexit deals of any kind. It behoves us to speak quietly and calmly but firmly on the question immediately posed by this border, whether hard or soft, whether they may be passed without incident or not. And we are not here to inflame passions which might so soon and so easily get out of hand. It is certainly true that the European Union has manipulated the politics of this issue in the most dangerous way in order to bring about the failure of Brexit. That is a fact, and they have done so heedless of the consequences for the Irish people, north or south. The DUP have said they see in the leaked letter from Theresa May's office a betrayal of the Unionist position. If they do, I have to take them at their word because I cannot fathom any meaning to it at all. And I have a feeling that it was written that way. But as it is certainly true that the EU has manipulated the situation, they did not create it. And it is not the border of the European Union, no matter how many drunken times Juncker slurs his words. It's not the Irish border either. It is Britain's border in Ireland. And while I, unlike Mr. Juncker, am sober enough to realise that the problems cannot be solved by next March, they must in the end be solved. And the National Party stands by the words of the proclamation in proclaiming the ownership of Ireland to the people of Ireland, unfettered by any foreign power. Our country, our land, our right of our people is summed up in the territory of Ireland consists of the whole island of Ireland, its islands and its territorial seas. It is not my intention to inflame a situation by saying that, but only a reminder of the manifest destiny that decrees it so. And all political manoeuvrings can only serve, in the end, in whatever form, and in whatever peace there is to be, that should be final. Not Britain, not Europe, but Ireland alone. Or ourselves alone. Although that name, for the time being, is still held fraudulently in the hands of another party. We are aware, too, of our own limitations. And just 2 years into our existence, all the eyes and ears of the world are not focused here on us or on myself or what I have to say about anything. We are growing north and south of the border, and our time will come. It will come, but it has not come yet. And I would caution everybody in this room to be aware, because it is very easy, and I have seen other leaders of other political groupings make the statement, and I have even myself been drawn to the hope and the belief sometimes that perhaps we were the great silent majority. We're not. We're not. We are the vanguard. And that is why, as the youth of the movement, is so important. We are the vanguard of the minority again. We are the vanguard of the few. We are the vanguard of those who hold on to the national faith and the national idea when it is nearly extinguished. And we do have a sense, and perhaps every generation does, that our times are unique. And to a certain extent, they are. Of course they are. Events take place this way, that way, different people are involved, different things occur. But in many ways, the Irish nation has been here before. At the turn of the last century, 1900, we welcomed the English king, and there wasn't hardly a voice against it. The Irish people had anglicised themselves just as much as we have globalised ourselves now. And the fact of the matter is we can take comfort, perhaps, but it's cold comfort indeed, that it is a biased media that draws a majority of voters to the polls to vote for the Liberal agenda. But the fact of the matter is as of this moment, they do. And in the end, we must be aware that in that ballot box, it is the free will of the Irish people to mark that ballot. And they have marked it repeatedly in a way that beckons their own self-destruction. And so I will be demonized for saying this, but this is our purpose, this is the National Party's purpose, is to save the Irish people, not just from globalism, not just from international finance capital, not just from socialism, but to save the Irish people from themselves. Because right now they are afflicted with what can only be described as a death wish. They have no desire to live. They have no passion for life. The idea that Dublin Castle could fill its grounds with hundreds and thousands of young people cheering and crying in happiness at the thought that finally they had the opportunity to murder their own children is a sad indictment, and also is a sobering thought in terms of what we face in recovering our country's sense of itself. But we have been here before. We have been here before. Anglicised before, globalised now. And our time will come. Mr. Eddie Hobbs during the week Eddie Hobbs believes. Damn it. It's not easy to begin a sentence with Eddie Hobbs believes without ending somehow that sentence in an absurdity of some kind. But Eddie Hobbs believes that it is not possible to form a new political party in Ireland that can break the hold of the political cartel of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, etc. Or up here in the six-county area, the DUP and Sinn Féin, though I did not mention them. He said it is not possible to do again what the Progressive Democrats did back in the day, though quite why anyone would want to do what the PDs did way back in the day is not explained. But I will say this much for Mr. Hobbs. He did attempt to form a new political party not so long ago, so he knows a little bit about this. Albeit his efforts were a swing and a miss at one general election, and then he gave up, so there's that. But he's hardly a pessimist. Eddie fronted an investment company called Brennan Investments, which raised over €13 million to build over the course of 10 years a property empire that extended in the end to one boarded up, derelict, unsaleable hovel in downtown Detroit. And he went back to giving financial advice. So in fairness, he's an optimistic man. So you have to listen when Eddie's pessimistic. And he cites solid facts. The political cartel have voted themselves vast sums of public money based on previous electoral performances that shuts out newcomers and who by definition do not have previous electoral performances. And the rules of the Standards and Public Office Committee set a limit of $2,500 per person per year. So raising money in any quantity is difficult, and politics is expensive. Politics is extremely expensive. What we have done, in a certain sense, already with the National Party makes no sense. It's impossible that we could have achieved what we have already achieved, especially given the youth alone of the party membership makes the SIPO's limits on individual donations have not yet to concern us. And here's where I would like to take a little time to thank those who have given generously of their means, insofar as they could, to ensure that every cent was spent with great care and attention, and above all, respect for the sacrifice of those who gave us some money to make what we could of what we are and bring this party as far as we have. And I have the greatest of respect too for all the activists of the party who, unable to give money, have given tirelessly of their hard work, their talent and their own hard sacrifices over the past 2 years. We have accomplished much that we were told it was impossible. And we are in a position far stronger than our enemies believe. And we have, the National Party, I might have other enemies. We, as the National Party, have no other enemies than the enemies of Ireland. It is as simple as that. And whether they believe it or not, we have achieved more than they thought possible, unless they're just in denial. The most fulsome compliment I received recently was from one such enemy who declared that, quote, unquote, "You clowns have been around for years and years and years now, and you haven't elected anyone." Now, never mind that there's been no election of any kind since our foundation. But focus instead, people, is they already cannot remember a time when we were not around. We have come among them as wolves in wolves' clothing. And they are not happy anymore playing the game for fun just amongst themselves. They do, however, make the mistake, and we could as easily make the mistake, of measuring success against their prescribed parameters. The Duke of Wellington was once asked how he had won the Battle of Waterloo, and his response was very simple. He said, "They came on in the same old way, and we saw them off in the same old way." Now, if we try exactly the same policy, if we try the exact same tactics, if we try the exact same formula that every political party has tried, then Mr. Eddie Hobbs is right. It won't work. They have already expected a Brexit party. They've already expected a pro-life party. Indeed, they've already expected a far-right party which would ape in some clumsy fashion the continental populists, instead of what we will give them. What we will give them is an authentically Irish answer, not some faded copy of something that's been tried on the continent. And this sometimes requires of the party membership and supporters some patience, because there is a tendency, as I say, we could make the mistake too, of measuring our success or failure by the parameters set by our enemies. But if the men of 1916 who forced their way into the GPO in 1916 and into the patriotic hearts of the generation who came after them, down to ourselves in this Ordesh today, they did not do so to buy stamps. And if their success or failure is to be measured by how many stamps they had collected by the week's end, they indeed failed badly. The National Party has entered Irish political life to discomfort Ireland's enemies, to win freedom for the Irish nation. And our success and our failure will not be measured by our name on the registrar of the clerk of the Dáil. It requires 300 names. We had them in the first 3 months. Occam's razor does not apply here. The simplest explanation is not the correct one. We are following a strategic plan. And within that plan, we will have what is needed when it is needed. I cannot, of course, stand at this podium today and outline in great detail our intentions for the coming year or our intentions for the coming couple of years without broadcasting, at least potentially, to the whole world. And I do not intend to do that. But if you'll forgive me a wider detour, because there is something that I forget sometimes, is that in the process of organising the National Party before its foundation, I outlined the basics of the plan, the very basics of the plan, in a sense that drew the first people to us and at the same time gives nothing away. That the course of the National Party would be based first on a base stage, a constituency stage, and a majority stage. Now, the base stage is very simple. The base stage is the people who agree with us already. They don't have to be argued with, they don't have to be talked into it. They already feel in their hearts exactly as we do, and we have found them everywhere we have gone throughout the country. The base stage is the gathering stage. The constituency phase is the phase where we look for, within the general public, those who are willing to support us. And as I say, we realise that they are perhaps a substantial minority, but a minority nonetheless at this point. So we will have some persuading to do before we get to the third stage, which is the majority stage. And by definition, there's a degree of overlap between the base stage and the constituency stage, in the sense that we are always gathering new people who already believe what we believe in, at the same time as we are beginning to outreach to those who will be willing to vote for us in the future. And here, the media have done us an extraordinary favour. And if you'd asked me 2 years ago whether it was an extraordinary favour, I would not have said it was. I would have said it was an absolute disaster. And there are some of our party members and supporters who are concerned that it continues to be a disaster. I do not believe that it is. Media coverage. We don't get any. And you say to yourself, Why do all these other parties get media coverage? Even the parties who are nominally opposed to the globalist agenda. Why do they get media coverage that we cannot? And why is it to our advantage that we do not? Well, first of all, they get the media coverage because they are serving the purpose of the system in draining dissent. They are there to run people round in circles. But the real huge media gain is, and they don't realize it, is we get to define ourselves. They don't get to define us. And that is really something extraordinary. The first time anybody hears about the National Party will probably be from the National Party. It will not be from the Irish Times. It will not be from Ivan Yates. It will not be from Matt Cooper. It will not be on RTE. It will not be on primetime. And it will not be slanted. And it will not be twisted. And it will not be perverted into something else which it is not. The first time they hear from the National Party is most likely to be from us. Ourselves. Now, does this deplatforming, as the Antifa like to call it, does this slow down the growth of membership of the National Party, the growth of membership of the National Resistance? Well, yes, it does. By definition, it does. But it makes it more solid. And in the long battles we have ahead of us, it's more solid that we're going to need. We are the very antithesis of a populist party, because populist parties are dangerously created by media hype. And what the media has given you, the media can take away. They have given us nothing. They can take from us nothing. And so I will say it to you straight, this is our biggest problem we have as a party. And this is what we need to work on in the next year, the next 2 years, and forward. Is the reality is not a hostility to the National Party, not a hostility to our ideas, not a hostility to what we believe in, to what we are, or whatever. But the single biggest problem we have as a party is that the vast majority of people have no idea who we are. That's our job. That's our task. Is that by the end of this year or the end of next year, after that at worst, that by whatever means, elections or otherwise, or campaigning, that everything that we do be focused on ensuring that at least everybody in the country knows who the National Party is and what the National Party stands for. Only then can we have a gauge of what the base actually is. Only then can we have a notion of how many are already on our side, and move fully then to the constituency phase, the electoral phase, when we start to elect candidates to Dáil Éireann, to local councils, to the European Parliament, etc. Much better to try and find those people who already agree with us than spend hours trying to persuade people on Twitter who have no interest whatsoever in listening to anything that has to be said by anybody. So there is no point in spending hours, days, weeks on trying to persuade people who are hostile when there are still, I believe, hundreds at least, if not thousands, already willing, already able to join the National Party, already willing to support the national idea, but who are not yet even aware of our existence. That is our number one task. And as I said, Eddie Hobbs and others are right, you see. There is no way to create a new political party in Ireland. And it's not because of money, although money is a problem. Money is always a problem. Money is a problem no matter what you try to do. But there's a saying in Longford, and James will recognise it immediately, is that you can't turn around without putting your hand in your pocket. And that's one which sticks with you particularly when you try to engage in any kind of political activity. And we don't have the 500,000 and the 1.5 million that the state gives the establishment parties. But we have no intention. We never had any intention of creating a new political party. We are about creating an ancient political party. A party that is so old that it is older than this fake republic, that it is older than the Free State, that it is older than unionism, it is older than England itself. For as Pearse says, there is no truth but the old truth, and no way but the old way. History records no other, reason and experience suggest no other. We know what the wheel of Irish nationalism looks like. We don't need to reinvent it. We are, as I said, the antithesis of a populist party here today and maybe gone tomorrow. We are not a marketing exercise to be delivered by a slick sales pitch. We are gathering Ireland's patriots, young and old, in a solid core for whom it is not enough to say, I believe, but also I fight. And we fight for not some political theorem or policy guideline, but for an Ireland not free merely, but Gaelic as well. Not Gaelic merely, but free as well. And it follows, as morning sunrise follows night, that we are for a 32-county republic, that it should be a republic, that it should be filled with a free people of one common ancestry and heritage, blood of our blood, that we cannot sweep aside the tide of global finance capitalism without sweeping aside too internationalist no borders socialism. We cannot allow our national life and existence to be placed at the mercy of random migratory patterns. It follows, too, that it is not a nation that will kill its children or submit to supranational powers, European Union or United Kingdom. Irishmen have fought under many banners, Pearse tells us. But Ireland, the authentic Irish nation, has only fought under one. And we raise it again in this generation as an inspiration to the next, to make these words true. You cannot conquer Ireland. Or yes, you're right.